can I improve my productivity at work? By the time this video is done, you're going to discover how you can get more done in less time. We're going to first talk about prioritizing tasks, and probably not in the way that you're thinking. Next, we're going to look at ways to minimize distractions so that you get more done. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the importance of setting clear, actionable goals for yourself. You ready? Let's get started. So when it comes to being more productive, prioritizing tasks can be an extremely important tool. But I want to be very clear. There's nothing more frustrating to me when I hear people say things like they don't have enough time in the day to get things done. And so some productivity expert says, oh, you just have to prioritize better. That doesn't make sense. If you have a list of 20 things and you can't get those 20 things done in a day, putting them in a different order doesn't actually give you more time. But where prioritizing comes in handy here is that oftentimes there are tasks that we think need to be done, but they either don't need to be done or they don't need to be done by us. And so it's important that we prioritize what we have going on. What do we need to do first? So for instance, in my business, I tend to tell my staff, start with revenue generating activities first. Follow up with that by anything that's customer service related. We want to make sure that people are taken care of. And then we kind of go down from there with other types of tasks. So prioritizing doesn't mean that it's going to free up extra time, because it won't, but it is going to help you focus on the most important tasks that are likely going to have the biggest impact. And if you keep seeing that you don't have enough time in the day to get everything done on the list, and you happen to work for a large organization, you can go back to your boss and say, hey, I'm getting things done, I'm productive, but these smaller items here that I don't necessarily have to handle that are on my list, can we go ahead and delegate these to someone else? Because it feels like you're overpaying me to do that. Whatever wage you paid me, this is such a low-level item. I feel like if we gave it to someone else that's in a different pay grade, it might be a better use of company resources. That's the purpose of prioritizing. Now, when it comes to prioritizing, you might be saying, how do I do this? I have a few different methods for you to try out. Some people use things like the Eisenhower box or the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule, to determine which tasks are most important to tackle those first. You can use a whole system for figuring this out, or honestly, like I said, you can just look and see which items are most likely to make the biggest results, which items are actually the most important. You want to take off busy work, even though they're things that kind of normally get done. You want to focus on the things that will have the biggest impact on the organization. Next up is to eliminate distractions. And sometimes distractions can be our own mobile devices. So maybe we need to go ahead and put an app on our phones that blocks us from using social media during certain times of day so that we're not tempted. This might mean that you need to set your cell phone to do not disturb, or you might have to do a better job of creating a dedicated workspace. Now at home, this is definitely important whenever possible. So I'm coming from a place of privilege saying you should carve out a space for work. I realize not everyone has as much space as others, but I have seen people convert closets into workspace. So use whatever you have and work with that. In the workplace itself, you might have to look at the space around you, and maybe if there's a lot of chit chat that's not work related or extra things, you might have to make some changes. I'll share a funny personal story. Back when I was in corporate America in my young 20s, I was in an open office concept. But based on where my office was located, there was actually an office, a physical office, in the middle of the office. And so I was kind of like in this hallway. So technically it was open, but I didn't have any desk mates near me because I was in a hallway. And it worked just fine because I could concentrate on what I needed to do. I was a sales manager. I could make my sales calls. People would walk by, I'd say hi, but I could focus. Well, there came a day where they decided to do construction on the building, and they were going to move all the salespeople into this one main kind of bullpen area. Now, the other sales managers were very chatty. They were also kind of mean girlish, and they gossiped a lot. I was highly productive, and in fact, my numbers reflected my level of productivity. I wasn't not social. It wasn't that I wasn't social, but I was business social. How are you? I know a little bit about you and your kids. How are they doing? But I was back to work. So when my boss told me that I had to move into that space, I initially said no, knowing that I would still have to do that, but I just said it just to see what he would say. And he was like, no, you have to. And I said, I'm going to be less productive. You're not going to get as much sales out of me if you put me in that environment. And he was like, you millennials, what do you need now? And I said, well, here's the thing. I'll do it, but I need this particular space against the wall, and I need for you to purchase 3 dividers for me. And he said, what? He said, you're going to build a cubicle in a space that has no cubicles? You're going to have the only cubicle in the office? I said, absolutely. He said, you're going to look crazy and antisocial. I said, I'm going to look like I'm trying to make you money. I said, I'm going to be nice to them. Hey, I come in. Hey, how are y'all doing? And I'm going to sit at my cubicle while they're all in an open space. So he was exasperated, but he ordered the dividers. And sure enough, they came. My desk was moved. I had my cubicle. No one else had a cubicle around me. They're talking to each other. But the most interesting thing happened. Not only did it allow me to focus, and occasionally people would come around and they'd ask if they could walk into my cubicle because they were like amazed by it. But it actually set a different tone for the rest of the office too. I noticed they talked less. Something about having my cubicle in the middle of it made them actually work more. Minimize distractions, whatever that needs to look like. I didn't care that I looked crazy being the only person in a cubicle. I cared about my production, which was excellent. Just throwing it out there. The next step is to take regular breaks. Now, I know that probably sounds counterproductive because you're like, wait a minute, how am I more productive if I take breaks? No, schedule timed breaks. Now, this is something that I did not only in the workplace because they had smoke breaks and I did not smoke, but I learned that if I could just clear my mind for a moment, give myself 10 to 15 minute breaks a couple times a day, when I got back to my seat, I was much more refreshed. And it was funny because let's go back to that same workplace. I definitely gave my boss a run for his money. I would observe other managers, and again, I'm in my early 20s at the time, taking smoke breaks. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go out there too just to get some fresh air. Not standing downwind from them, but still get some fresh air. So I'd go out there and I noticed my boss noticing me a few times. He would look at me while I was out there. And then maybe on the 5th time he was out there at the same time as me and other managers, he walked over to me and he said, why are you out here? And I said, to take a break. And he said, but you don't smoke. I said, yeah, but I still want a break. He said, yeah, but you don't smoke, so why? And what I recognized what he was saying was I didn't need a break because I didn't smoke. When in fact, I understood I actually needed a break because it recharged my brain. So my answer to him was, I said, you don't see me smoking? He said, what? So for the next few years that I worked there, whenever he came outside and I was outside during a smoke break, I would literally do this with an invisible cigarette. The point of the story, though, is that it was all about understanding that if I gave myself little moments of silence or little moments to just get away from the desk and even chat with other people, I would be more productive when I got back. During COVID, I would even schedule dance breaks. I lie to you not. I'd schedule breaks. I'd do about 2 to 3 of them during the day, and I'd dance for 10 minutes, and I'd go back to work again, right? So do whatever works for you, but sometimes getting up and just refreshing yourself, getting your mind off of work when you get back, it's easier for you to think clearly. Breaks are important. Now, I don't want to take too long of a break now, but I'm just breaking for a couple seconds to tell you that if you haven't subscribed to this channel, this might be a good time to do that. The next step to being more productive at work is to set clear goals for yourself. Now, your employer may have set goals for you. Your customers may have set goals for you through their expectations. But now we're talking about something a little bit different. It can include those things, but you're setting goals for yourself. I would suggest setting clear, actionable goals for the day, week, and even month. You can break down some of your larger tasks or projects into smaller items so that you can see that you're taking bite-sized pieces out of the big project. Or you can even set the kind of goals that we did as children where we kept trying to shave time off of things or seeing if we can step further. So maybe you're setting actual efficiency goals for yourself, seeing if you can create reports faster but maintaining the same quality. Whatever it is, setting goals is a great way to give yourself a vision of what you're going towards. And the last thing you want to do to improve your productivity is invest in continuous learning. Invest time and possibly money. There's probably courses or learning opportunities that your organization offers to pay for where you can stay up to date with what's going on. If not, there are many resources online, free and paid, where you can take classes or stay up to date on current happenings in your industry. Sometimes those new happenings, those new ways of doing things, those new technologies, you can learn about them this way. And then as you implement them, they're going to increase your productivity that much more. Now, if you're interested in productivity, obviously you're thinking about the future. I have a gift for you that can help you with that. You're going to notice in the description of this video, there's a link to download a Future Ready Playbook. This is a playbook that I designed just for you that's going to help you future-proof yourself, your career, or your organization by walking you through several different activities and worksheets so that you start thinking more strategically like a futurist. If you haven't already done it, download it right now.